to it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast.
Welcome, everybody, to another hopefully exciting episode of the Anycast. I'm here today with somebody who has quite the background in CDN, and I think more importantly today is working on, I think, what's top of mind for most people, certainly that we talk about on the broadcast side, which is how does one know what's going on with one's stuff, whether that's CDN or Origin or everything in between. So we've got Simon from Hydraulics today, and we are going to get into some pretty interesting stuff, I hope. For those who don't know, Simon, do you want to give us, you don't have to go all the way back to conception, but who are you, how did we get here, and where are we going?
Sure. Super happy to be here. And, thanks for having me. This is, there's so much good stuff going on. Your anti-piracy episode, I thought was really special. It was great to see Jason from SVTA too, right? Like really interesting stuff kind of happening in the space. And so who am I? Why am I here? I'm Simon, last name Ouderkirk, tough to spell, but fun to say. I've recently joined Hydraulics in this product leadership role, VP product at Hydraulics. I've got a pretty checkered professional past. I joined my first tech firm, was this company called Automattic, which was the parent company of Tumblr, WordPress.com, and some other open source products. I had the good fortune of sort of leaving there, leading the data and analytics organization, which was kind of CDN, some network adjacency there. Heard the siren song of early stage startups, like so many of us, right? Sort of went in and out a couple of places there. Ended up at Disney, working again in the product organization. There I ended up helping to run the business unit that's really focused on content distribution, sort of the networking decisions that have to go around that, as well as the tooling that you use to manage a global conglomerate of multiple industrial CDNs, as well as, Disney does have a first-party CDN. And then following that, I was there for about 5 years. And I was really excited to join Hydraulics. The technology that is being built at this firm is really remarkable. The talent has been super impressive. Like I'm really looking forward to kind of every day in some ways. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we get into what you're doing now, one of the questions that frequently comes up is, everybody's on some version of the streaming journey. At something like Disney scale, is there something that most people fundamentally misunderstand about like running infrastructure at that level?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's people and there's people, right? Like I think working at Disney for sure led me to understand like how little most of the humans I run into day to day understand the internet and like how things get like onto your phone, right? To the, well, it's called a CDN and it stands for Content Delivery Network, and it kind of gets to your phone, and it's like I had a whole like spider web metaphor, like multiple spider webs, and you have to make choices to get between them. I think for a more technical audience, when I talk to other tech folks, I think the incredible like Cartesian join of interlocking systems is, I think it's really hard to think about. It's really hard to reason about, especially when you start to think about like, okay, Disney's like 200 million customers across 6 continents, sometimes 7 continents, more devices than you could ever possibly think of, being delivered content in formats you've never heard of, sometimes through like ISPs and mobile carriers that are like tiny, like micro regional providers. And you're trying to provide those people the best possible experience of like pretty important storytelling, and just trying to get it as right as you can while maintaining your like more abstract like business strategy outcomes. It's very hard to reason about. And yeah, I mean, that to me is the thing that I think a lot of folks, even pretty technically savvy folks, kind of get wrong. They sort of bump up against the kind of classic Dunning-Kruger idea, right? Which is, oh, I understand what a CDN is. It gets content to someone on the edge. Like, of course, I get it. And it isn't until I had this experience myself. It isn't until you're really sort of faced with the depth of those problems that it washes over you. Like, oh my gosh, this is more complicated than I could have ever imagined. And I was so fortunate at Disney and now at Hydraulics to have very bright, very generous colleagues who were really willing to kind of help me come to a much deeper understanding myself.
I think the best like high level thing I heard from somebody who's non-technical but kind of a deep thinker on things is the value is no longer like the human value is really, if it still is today, won't be for long, is no longer knowledge, it's meaning. Right? Like the knowledge you can now outsource, which has been true for a long time, right? Like if you even think of some of the dated concepts of the way we educate kids, right? Is like you have to memorize the capital of Argentina.
Buenos Aires.
Wow. But like I could Google like
Yeah.
why? How is that a life benefiting
Yeah.
skill, right? As opposed to like teaching you how to think through, well, you have these series of capitals,
Yeah.
how is life different in those places, and what does that mean to the people there? Like those types
sure.
of things are still uniquely human, but the knowledge isn't anymore. And like the ability to distill knowledge into meaning, and or to take meaning and turn it into something that an agent can make for you. That's still the uniquely human part that, again, who knows 5 years from now, but that's the hard part of replicating the human brain is not its ability to recall the capital of a city. If anything, it's worse than that today than computers. But the thing that computers in the short term don't seem to have any way to catch up to is the ability to connect disparate thoughts and turn those things into a narrative. And so I think that so if I like that high level example, which I do, distill that down into the what does it mean to build product or build something? It is it's the skill isn't the shovel in the ground, right? The skill was in deciding where where you were going to make the job site.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we've come to a really similar conclusion, which is as the bottleneck in software development moves from our capacity to build software, well, then there must be a new bottleneck. Like what then is the new thing that is preventing us from achieving the outcome that we want? And my sense is it's very much what you're describing, where to dig the hole, right? Like how do I use my experience, my understanding of the customer, of the market, of our engineers' capabilities to decide like, okay, well, this is the direction we're going to go 1,000,000 miles an hour in. Because it's very easy to go super fast in the wrong direction, easier now than it has ever been, right? So suddenly this idea of like, okay, making discerning decisions about the right bets to move forward with, I feel like that's kind of become increasingly the role of the product organization.
Yeah. And then to close the loop on the analogy, so you go, okay, so I've got a very eager high school intern. Do I make them in charge of strategy or execution?
Right.
And framing it that way. So what's the most valuable part?
I like that.
Yeah.
And so do they have the shovel? Who has the shovel?
I don't know. I
on this
lost
one?
that. That's a different analogy. I lost track of that one. But yeah, they're the ditch digger.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it is. Right. Is the value is, the value is in knowing where to dig, whether it's for a ditch or to dig up dinosaur bones or whatever it is. Those strategy decisions. I think it's a more interesting challenge though, because as you become distant from the work, there's a feedback loop that's lost. So
Right.
you have to be better at pure strategy with less inputs, which I think is again, I don't think that's something that is a non-human is going to be able to replace anytime soon. I don't know what that timescale. Your definition of soon is as good as mine, but yeah, I think it's a tool. It's the microchip. Like the microchip is going to let Microsoft Excel run calculations faster than anybody else has ever seen.
Right.
Somebody's still got to design the spreadsheet and build the calculations, and it's going to do great at doing the calculations. But, Microsoft Excel did not put any CFOs out of work.
Right.
Right. Or anybody. Right. It's just a tool that people started using to do their job. And so I don't know. That's my I'm not afraid of Skynet. At least not yet.
I'm not saying I'm not afraid of Skynet. That's not
Yeah.
that's not my position. I'm still pretty scared.
Yeah.
But I do think the tool framing, especially in our professional context, I think that's the right mindset, right? It's something that allows us to focus on the things that we can uniquely do to provide value, right?
Yeah. So with that said, I want to tie this back to the conversation specifically around multi-CDN. And so, I think hydraulics has an interesting seat on that ride right now. And I guess my question would be, today, from where you sit, are most people's deployments smart, or are they just complicated?
Well, it can be both. It can be both, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that today, most of the folks operating in a multi-CDN environment, and this isn't for lack of interest or lack of like sophistication, it's just not it's like the trade-off is not apparent, right?
Yeah.
Like you create a highly automated system 5 years ago was incredibly expensive. And in the same reason that people are hesitant to move ostensibly from one commodity to another, right? Like, oh, we can just swap out 80% of our traffic. Should be easy, right? In the same way, like CDN delivery, multi-CDN or not, that's still the last mile, right? Like that is the connective tissue between your customer and you. And any kind of changes you make there, especially on automation, feel really risky, right? And ultimately, like if your customer, if that show doesn't load, if that PDF doesn't download, like they're not going to blame your CDN vendor, right? They're going to blame you. And I think risk aversion in that space has been pretty warranted for a long time.
Yeah, and I feel like the thing about commodities is that they only look like commodities to people who aren't in the industry. Right? Like where that's not your job. Like so even take the coffee bean example. If your your business is in place to sell people coffee, you don't think of beans as you want that one farm that gave you your beans last month that your customer said tasted really good. If you're in the trucking industry, you're transporting a commodity of coffee beans, or you're transporting a truck full of oranges. But if you sell orange juice, you're not really like, you know what, I just want to interchange stuff because it's just a commodity. You want the one
Yeah. So really, I mean, it's funny, like to say that to identify a good as a commodity does the thing that we've been talking about this whole time, which is it flattens it to a single value, despite the fact that actually there could be really
they're
different
so
things
unique,
going
right?
on
Like
there.
no coffee company says buy from us. We just buy commodity beans from anywhere and roast them, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think that's the rub with the commodities is like maybe it's a Dunning-Kruger thing, right? Which is
Yeah.
I remember reading a long time ago, the more experienced you are in an industry, the more likely you are to buy generics, right? Like a doctor is way more likely to buy generic ibuprofen than a consumer, and it's the same thing. Like once you're inside the industry, like once you're in coffee, you probably don't think all coffee is the same.
Right.
But my mom for sure is like all coffee beans are the same, right? They're
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. There's some reverse Dunning-Kruger there, I think, but this was awesome. I feel like I want to ask you for a last thought, but I feel like we got it with the the last 20 minutes were a pretty good last thought. So thank you again. For those who are listening and aren't familiar, hydraulics.com, you'll see how to spell it in the show notes.
.io. Yeah.
.io. You'll see it in the show notes. We're on a bit of a ride right now, both in terms of agentic AI, in terms of multi-CDN, in terms of delivery of video. I think everything is going to look so different 5 years from now. So maybe we do a follow-up in 5 years, and if Skynet will permit us.
Yeah, right. I'm more than happy. I'd love to come back. This was awesome. Thank you so very much for having me.
Thanks so much, Simon.
This is different, another round, so much more to talk about. Gonna aim to satisfy with help from CacheFly. Get to it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast. The Anycast podcast, brought to you by CacheFly.